There aren't that many players who relish facing a queen's pawn opening. To be more precise, that group of rock-solid opening variations where white postpones or maybe omits altogether the move c2, c4. And I'm talking about all chess players now, from beginner through club, state and regional levels up to master and grandmaster. It's a grey area of chess knowledge. So on this video I'm going to try and fill in the gaps for you and give sensible recommendations against each individual queen's pawn system. I'm going to cover a whole stack of annoying queen's pawn openings. The Trompowsky attack, where white plays d4 and bishop g5. The Torres attack, where white plays d4, knight f3 and bishop g5. The Stonewall attack, where white plays d4, e3, with a view to following up with f4. The Colle system, where white plays d4, knight f3 and e3. The London system, where white plays d4, knight f3 and bishop f4. And the Veresov attack, where white plays d4, knight c3 and bishop g5. The Trompowsky opening begins as follows. White plays 1d4, black knight f6, and now comes a very aggressive bishop move, bishop g5. And in the hands of somebody like Julian Hodgson or other such attacking players, this opening has become a very fearsome weapon indeed from white's point of view. I think the main problem for black is there's very little theory written down on this opening, so players go back to their books to look up an antidote and they can't find one. Now I think black's got to be careful against the Trompowsky, and accordingly I'm going to recommend the sensible second move, 2e6. If white now played knight f3, he'd be transposing back into the Torres attack. But the mainline Trompowsky move is e4 here. h6 by black, and then bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, and white plays knight f3. Now this position has become quite common in Trompowsky attack games, and black has fared all right from it, but not greatly. The results have gone in favour of white. So I'm going to recommend a slightly unusual move here for black, and that's 5d5. In fact, this is quite a rare idea. It was condemned by Bellin in his book Trompowsky Attack and Torres Attack, and Gufeld doesn't mention it at all in his recent Batsford book on the Torres Attack. So it is quite rare. However, the move is not at all bad. Black is trying to set up a formation similar to that of the French defence. White has several options now. His mainline move, and most commonly played, is 6 knight bd2, keeping the tension in the centre. And now I'm going to recommend simplicity for black. D takes e4, knight takes e4, and the simple retreat, queen d8. This may look a bit retrograde, but I believe that white really misses his dark squared bishop in these types of positions. Actually, there's not much experience from this position at all. But in this video we're going to follow the game Carsten Høy against Kurt Hansen, Denmark 1982. Of course Hansen is a strong grandmaster in his own right. And Høy played the move which I expect most of your opponents will play, bishop d3. Now in the game, Hansen played bishop e7 here. In fact, I believe it's slightly more accurate to play knight d7 first, dissuading white from putting his knight into e5. Of course, if he played his knight to e5 now, black would simply exchange. But anyway, Hansen wasn't too afraid of that, so he played bishop e7. Høy played c3, knight d7, and then came queen c2. An aggressive move, threatening to castle long. And now Hansen played c6. a good move with several ideas. The first idea is to let the black queen out, obviously. Now the queen can come to either c7 or b6 or even a5, according to what white does. Secondly, black prepares the move b6 followed by bishop b7, and he takes a lot of the sting out of a possible central advance by white, namely c4 followed by d5. All in all, a careful move by black. Well, Colle continued naturally with castles on the queen side, and black plays queen c7. Now actually, in the one book I found on the Torres attack which gives this position, namely Tangborn's nice book on the Torres attack, he gives it as slightly better for white. I'm not sure that I agree with him, and the game will seem to prove that I'm right. White played king b1 and black played b6. This is the plan to get the bishop out. Rook he1, bishop b7, and Colle played queen e2. Black castled on the queen side, and white played bishop a6. And it looks as though white's actually building up a bit of pressure here. But as I say, I think white's missing his dark square bishop here. The bishop on e7 is potentially a very strong piece in this position. You'll notice first of all that black has control. The queen controls the diagonal all the way down to the h2 square. Importantly, the queen controls f4. The second point is white can't yet establish a knight on e5. That's what white wants to do to gain complete control of the e5 square. Of course, without a dark square bishop, it's that much more difficult to do. So chances are balanced in this position, in my opinion, and the course of the game tends to justify that opinion. After bishop a6, Hansen played simply. He took the bishop off. Bishop takes a6, queen takes a6 check, king b8. And now Colle, a strong international master in his own right, played what looks like a good move, c4. And indeed it still looks as though white is slightly better. But in playing c4, he's taken away certain retreat squares from his own queen. The queen can't go backwards along the diagonal anymore, and Hansen exploits this. He played bishop b4 in this position, hitting the rook. Rook went to e3, and now came a clever tactic, f5. White went knight ed2, and now black went e5, which was the whole point. Clearly it's not possible now for white to play d takes e5, because knight c5 nabs the white queen. So going back, black has made an important central advance free of charge, and I believe black is slightly better here. Another move for white, which allows black to capture on e4, is the quiet bishop d3. Well, I believe this is easy to equalise against. Black takes on e4, bishop takes e4, again very similar to the Rubinstein variation of the French, and now we'll follow the short game, Hug against Robach, Switzerland 1993, where black set about exploiting the dark squares straight away with c5. White played c3, black played knight d7, castles on the king side, bishop e7, white went rook e1, black castled, and Hug played knight bd2, offering a draw. Robach accepted, but clearly there's quite a bit of play left in the position. I'd be quite happy to play black here. For instance, a plan with rook d8, rook b8 and b5 looks promising. Here black places all his rooks on dark squares. White hasn't got a dark square bishop. And if white ever tries to build up a battery of queen and bishop on the long diagonal, for instance, just say, with bishop b1 and queen c2, then black can defend comfortably with knight f8. His king is in no particular difficulty, and he has two good bishops. An innocuous sixth move for white is e takes d5. But this was actually played in the game Djurhuus against Gausdal, both strong international masters. Gausdal in Norway 1994. Black had no difficulty whatsoever in obtaining a good game. For instance, e takes d5, queen e2 check. That's a very funny move in its own right. Bishop e7, knight c3, c6, and now queen e5. Now I would guess that white intended to castle long in this position, not play queen e5, but he just lost faith in it, and so decided to play a kind of bailout move. Even so, Gausdal castled, and after queen takes f6, bishop takes f6, h3, rook e8 check, black obviously had a fine game. Now I think the most critical move here is e5. And it was the move played by Julian Hodgson when he had to face this variation, the only time he had to face this variation, against the Pakistani IM Lodhi at Lloyds Bank 1987. Even so, I think it leads to a good variation of the French defence for black. Well, black should play queen d8. And now white has two choices. His first choice is the move Hodgson chose against Lodhi, so maybe it's the best move for white, and that's c4. Lodhi played d takes c4, bishop takes c4, knight d7, hoping to clamp down on the square d5. White played knight c3, knight b6, bishop b3, and then black went bishop d7. White castled, and black went bishop c6 here. And now you can see all the black pieces trained on the d5 square. Actually, this is a similar variation to an advanced Caro-Kann, but of course in that variation black would have a pawn on c6. This time black's got an active bishop on c6. Now Hodgson set a trap. He played queen e2. Now in this position, if black had played bishop e7, he would have been perfectly okay. Followed up by castles on the king side. No problem for black. But Lodhi was tempted to take the knight on f3. So put the bishop back on f8. He took on f3. Queen takes f3. And then played c6. Now white has a slight advantage in space, and Hodgson went on to win in almost miraculously brilliant style. But, as I say, if black had played bishop e7, retaining the strong bishop on c6, then I think he's doing well. Back to the position after queen d8. And now, I guess the second move, c3, is the move that will be played by most of your opponents. If not now, then after, for instance, if we just move the c-pawn back, bishop d3 or knight d2. Either of these moves, or both of them probably, will be followed by c3 at some point. So we must consider this type of structure now. Almost always, black should be looking to play the move c5, with two known variations. Firstly, the game Menkov versus Berger, New York City, 1980, which went knight bd2, queen b6, And now white played the, well, very boring move, queen b3 here. But just replacing that move, is it really so easy to defend the pawn on b2? Well, if you don't want to play a move like rook b1, for instance, which can't lead to anything special for white at all. So queen b3, Berger played bishop d7, could have played knight c6 just as easily. Bishop e2, knight c6, white castled, and black just went bishop e7. I think this is a very comfortable position for black. So that doesn't give white anything special at all. And the other game that I found in this rare system on my database is the game Kapler against Herb, France National League 1993, which again gave black no difficulty. Queen went back to d8, white played c3, and black played c5. Now white took on c5. Well, I'm not so unhappy now. I like the way my bishop's been brought into the game, so bishop takes c5. And now Kapler played queen a4 check. Interesting move that. Not just a check. I think white's idea is maybe to swing the queen across to g4. But please notice now that it's much easier for black to defend the g7 square in this type of position. He can simply castle. Well, in normal French defence positions, white would be in a position to go bishop takes h6 at this point. So, for that reason, black doesn't generally castle after queen g4. But here, white hasn't got a bishop on c1, so black can play the most simple move on the board. So this plan of playing the queen across to g4 is not so dangerous. Accordingly, Herb played very simply again, bishop d7, Kapler played bishop b5, queen b6, couldn't be easier, bishop takes d7, developing black's pieces for him, knight takes d7, queen went back to c2, necessary because black had a double attack on f2 and b2, black castled, white castled, and now black played f6 with superior development and attacking chances. After e takes f6, rook takes f6, black was slightly better and went on to win in 44 moves. Well, now I guess you'll be wondering, well, why hasn't anybody thought of this simple plan before? Well, the answer is some systems just simply lay in obscurity and their potential is not really discovered until people actually go out and play them. I think you're going to surprise a lot of white players by playing this idea. And certainly if they stick to the rigid Trompowsky plan of just shunting out the queenside pieces and castling on the queenside, then I believe the French idea of sticking to consistent pressure against d4 will yield a very good game. For instance, you'll recall that white's played e5 and black's now retreated to d8. What happens if white just goes on with the programme? For instance, queen d2 here, let's say. Well, black plays c5 in French defence style. Knight c3. We'll keep attacking with knight c6. White castles on the queen side. Well, now black can surely have a promising choice between simply playing c takes d4 here, when after knight takes d4, e5 is hanging, or if black doesn't feel like taking the pawn on e5, he can consider queen b6 here, or bishop c5, and if he doesn't like these variations, he may dispense with taking on d4 altogether. For instance, how about in this position, in place of c takes d4, simply queen a5? Now there are some interesting variations here. If white goes king b1, well, again, black can consider taking on d4 here. That's not out of the question. Or he may just go for a big queenside assault here by playing c4. And look at the queen here supporting b5, b4. Well, with a queenside attack. I wouldn't like to be white in this type of position. white's pieces are not ideally positioned to attack black's supposedly weak kingside. I like that bishop on f8. It holds black's position completely together. So white's standard plan, with the Trompowsky in this line where he takes on f6, seems completely out of place when black plays an early d5. And white will have to think for himself. That must favour you. To conclude, black's fifth move, d5, is quite unusual, and it puts the question to white's centre. It also puts the question, more importantly, to white's imagination. White was ready to reel out a programmed sequence of moves: knight d2, bishop d3, c3, queen e2. Well, it's not so easy to do that anymore. My guess is that 99.99% of white players here are going to play e5. And after queen d8, they're going to have to think very long and hard about how to get any advantage at all out of this position. Meanwhile, black proceeds in typical French defence style: c5, knight c6, queen b6. It's easy to play, and eventually, when you get your dark square bishop into the game, you can look forward to the advantage. In practice, over the board, I think this variation will work out very well for black.
This is Grandmaster Damian Lemos here for onlinechesslessons.net. First of all, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to receive more free chess videos from us, you can just click the subscribe button below. I would also highly recommend signing up for my free mail course, the 10 Grandmaster Secrets to Dominate Chess. During this exclusive course from onlinechesslessons.net, I'll share with you my own Grandmaster shortcuts to effective attacking, defending, and growth hacks to improving your chess without complicated books or memorization. So sign up by clicking the sidebar on the right, and I know you won't be disappointed. Once more, this is Damian for onlinechesslessons.net, and I'll see you in my videos. Thank you.